We shouldn't be doing this. Naomi's hands trembled against the silk of his tie. Through the window, 300 wedding guests waited in the garden below. Jinwoo's hand covered hers, stopping her movement. I know, he whispered. But I can't marry her without telling you the truth. Don't. The word came out as a plea. Whatever you're about to say, don't. I love you. The world stopped. I've loved you for 2 years. Every morning, every night, every moment in between. His thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. And marrying her while feeling this way is killing me. Her voice cracked. Why now? Why tell me this now? Because in 20 minutes, I'm going to stand at that altar and lie. And I needed you to know that every vow I speak will be meant for you. The confession she'd buried for 2 years broke free. I love you too. His forehead dropped to hers. Both of them were crying. We shouldn't be doing this, she whispered again, but her hands gripped his shirt tighter. I know, he breathed. But for one moment, let me pretend you're mine. He kissed her. Salt and desperation and goodbye. A knock shattered everything. 5 minutes, sir. Naomi pulled back, finished his tie with shaking hands. Be happy, even if it's a lie. She left before he could respond. In the hallway, she heard voices from the bride's dressing room. 3 more months, and the poison will make him too weak. 6 months, he's dead. Naomi froze. And they'll really believe the maid did it? I've planted evidence for weeks. When Jinwoo dies, every clue points to her. The jealous help who killed her employer out of love. Naomi's world shattered for the second time in 5 minutes. He loved her. He was dying. And she was the scapegoat. Welcome back to True Soul Stories. If you're new here, what you're about to witness will leave you speechless. Hit that subscribe button right now because this love story is about to turn into a nightmare. Let's get into it. 2 years earlier, Naomi Washington's first day at the Park Estate began with 3 rules delivered by the head housekeeper in a tone that left no room for questions. Rule 1. Don't speak unless spoken to. Rule 2. Don't look Mr. Park directly in the eye. Rule 3. Never, under any circumstances, enter his private study uninvited. Mrs. Kim, the housekeeper, was a stern woman in her 60s who'd worked for the Park family for 30 years. She knew which rules could bend and which would get you fired, or worse. Mr. Park values his privacy above all else. Mrs. Kim continued as they walked through the sprawling mansion. He's a very important businessman with very important associates. Your job is to be invisible. Clean efficiently, work quietly, and for the love of God, don't ask questions about what you see or hear. Naomi nodded, taking in the marble floors, the crystal chandeliers, the artwork that probably cost more than her entire life. She'd grown up in Atlanta in a 2-bedroom apartment with her grandmother. This world was so foreign it felt like another planet. I understand, Mrs. Kim. Good. Because girls who don't understand don't last long here. Mrs. Kim's voice softened slightly. You come highly recommended. Your references say you're hardworking and discreet. That's exactly what we need. Don't disappoint me. I won't. Naomi kept all 3 rules for exactly 6 days. On the 7th night, working the late shift, she was cleaning the hallway outside Jinwoo's private study when she heard it. The crash of glass shattering, furniture scraping violently across the floor, then silence. The kind of terrible silence that screamed something was desperately wrong. She stood frozen, mop in hand, staring at the closed door. Walk away, her brain commanded. Follow the rules. Mind your business. But her grandmother's voice echoed in her head. Asterisk, baby girl, you can't never turn away when someone might be hurting. That's how you lose your humanity. Asterisk. Naomi set down her mop and knocked softly. Sir? Is everything all right? No response. She knocked again. Sir? I heard a crash. I just want to make sure. Go away. The voice was rough, hollow. I can't do that, sir. Not until I know you're not hurt. I said go away. But there was something in his voice. Not anger, but pain. Deep, soul-crushing pain. Naomi made a decision that would change everything. She opened the door. Jinwoo Park sat on the floor of his study surrounded by shattered glass and scattered papers, blood dripping from his right hand onto the expensive Persian rug beneath him. His tie was loosened, his shirt partially unbuttoned, and his eyes, dark and intelligent even in distress, were hollow in a way that made her chest physically ache. He looked up as she entered, and for a moment, she saw something flicker across his face. Not anger, surprise, maybe even relief that someone had cared enough to check. I told you to go away. But the words had no heat behind them. You're bleeding, sir. Naomi grabbed the first aid kit she'd seen in the hallway during her orientation. And that rug is probably worth more than my annual salary. If I don't clean the blood now, the stain will set, and Mrs. Kim will have both our heads. For the first time, something that almost looked like amusement touched his expression. You're new. 6 days. She knelt beside him, carefully avoiding the broken glass. Which means I don't know yet that I'm supposed to be terrified of you. You should be. She met his eyes, directly, breaking rule 2 without hesitation. Right now, you just look tired, sir. Not terrifying. He stared at her for a long moment, and she wondered if she'd just made a catastrophic mistake. But then, quietly, he said, I am tired. Something passed between them in that moment. Nothing romantic. Nothing inappropriate. Just two people recognizing exhaustion in each other. The kind of bone-deep weariness that came from carrying weights too heavy for one person. Naomi examined his hand gently. This needs stitches. It's fine. With all due respect, sir, you're dripping blood on a 6-figure rug. It's objectively not fine. She began cleaning the wound with antiseptic. What happened? Does it matter? Probably not. But talking helps sometimes. Distracts from the pain. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I broke a glass. Then I put my fist through my laptop screen. Not my finest moment. Bad news. The worst kind. The kind that doesn't change no matter how many glasses you break or laptops you destroy. She wrapped his hand carefully, her touch gentle but efficient. For what it's worth, the laptop probably deserved it. A sound escaped him, not quite a laugh, but close. What's your name? Naomi, sir. Naomi Washington. You're American. Yes, sir. From Atlanta. Been in Seoul for 3 months. What brought you here? Long story. The short version is my grandmother needed expensive medical care, and the pay here is triple what I could make back home. Your grandmother raised you? Since I was 8. My parents died in a car accident. She tied off the bandage. There. That should hold until you can see a proper doctor. Though you really should get stitches. I'll survive. He flexed his hand, testing the bandage. Thank you, Naomi. Just doing my job, sir. Breaking the rules to help your employer isn't in your job description. She smiled. Maybe not. But my grandmother always said rules are just guidelines when someone needs help. Your grandmother sounds wise. She is. Stubborn as hell. Excuse my language, but wise. Don't apologize for speaking honestly. It's refreshing. He stood slowly, and Naomi rose with him. You should go. Your shift must be almost over. The rug, sir. I'll handle it. You've done enough. He paused at his desk. And Naomi? Thank you. Not just for the bandage. For checking. Anyone would have. No, they wouldn't. Most people hear a crash behind my door and walk faster in the opposite direction. His smile was sad. You're either very brave or very foolish. I'm leaning toward foolish, sir. Me too. But I appreciate it anyway. Naomi left the study feeling like she'd just crossed an invisible line she couldn't uncross. When she returned an hour later to finish her cleaning shift, the broken glass was gone, and a neatly folded 50,001 note sat on the hallway table with a simple note. Asterisk for the rug. Thank you. JP asterisk. That was the first time. The second time was 3 weeks later. Naomi arrived for her early morning shift at 5 a.m., the time when the estate was quietest, when she could clean the main areas before the family and staff fully woke. She'd learned the rhythms of the house, where to be when, how to move through rooms like a ghost. But that morning, she found Jin-Woo passed out at his desk in his study, his face pressed against financial reports, papers scattered everywhere, his computer still glowing with spreadsheets and documents she deliberately didn't read. She should have woken him immediately, should have backed out and pretended she'd never seen him vulnerable like this. Instead, she noticed the dark circles under his eyes, the way his breathing was deep and even, the first real sleep he'd probably gotten in days. The coffee cup beside him, empty and cold, suggesting he'd been working through the night. Naomi quietly draped her jacket over his shoulders, the only covering available. She left a fresh glass of water within easy reach and turned down the harsh overhead lights, leaving only the softer desk lamp. Then she left as silently as she'd entered. When she returned 2 hours later to clean the study during her regular shift, the door was open. Jin-Woo stood by the window, her jacket folded neatly over a chair, and a handwritten note placed on top. Asterisk, thank you for your kindness. I don't deserve it, but I appreciate it more than you know. JP asterisk. Beside the note was an envelope containing 200,000 won. Naomi stared at the money, something uncomfortable twisting in her chest. She didn't want to be paid for basic human decency. But 200,001 would cover her grandmother's medications for a month. She took the money, folded the note, and tried to ignore the way her heart had started doing strange things whenever she thought about Jinwoo Park. The third time changed everything. It was 2 months into her employment, during one of the Park family's legendary parties. The house filled with men in expensive suits, women in designer dresses, and an atmosphere of barely concealed danger that made Naomi's instincts scream. These weren't normal businessmen. She might have been naive about many things, but she'd grown up in neighborhoods where she recognized predators. These men were predators in expensive cologne and Italian leather. She was in the hallway, clearing empty glasses, when a drunk guest cornered her. He was European, German, maybe, with breath that reeked of whiskey and entitlement. His hand grabbed her waist before she could step back. "Come on, sweetheart. A girl who looks like you doesn't work in a place like this without knowing how to have fun." Naomi's blood turned cold, but her voice stayed steady. "Sir, I need you to let me go." "Why? We could have fun. I could make it worth your while." His other hand reached for her face. Naomi's knee came up fast and stopped just short of contact. "Touch me again, and I'll make it worth your while in a very different way. Now let me go." The man's face darkened. "You little bitch. Do you know who I am? I could buy and sell you 10 times over. I'll have you fired. You'll what?" Jinwoo's voice cut through the hallway like a blade of ice. The drunk guest spun around, his grip on Naomi loosening. His face went from red to white in seconds. "Jinwoo, I was just leaving." Jinwoo's voice was deadly quiet, the kind of quiet that preceded violence. "You're leaving my home. You're leaving my city. And if you ever come near any member of my staff again, if you ever speak to any woman in my organization again, I'll make sure every business partner you have knows exactly what kind of man you are." It was just, "Get out." Jinwoo took a step forward. 2 of his security guards appeared from nowhere. "Escort Mr. Hoffman to his car. Make sure he understands he's not welcome here again. Ever." The guards moved in. The drunk man opened his mouth to protest, then saw something in Jinwoo's expression that made him think better of it. He left without another word. Jinwoo turned to Naomi. The cold fury melted into concern. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine, sir. I had it handled." "I know you did. I saw." Something that might have been pride flickered in his eyes. "I saw you threaten him. Very effective. Though I appreciate you not actually following through. The hospital visit would have complicated my evening." Despite everything, Naomi almost smiled. "I was close, sir. I could tell." His expression sobered. But he still needed to know there would be consequences. That kind of behavior is unacceptable. In my home, my staff are under my protection. Always. "Thank you, sir. Don't thank me for basic decency." He paused, something shifting in his expression. "Though I should thank you for restraint. You could have caused a scene. Made things difficult. You didn't. Part of the job, sir." "No, it's not. Most people would have screamed. Would have created drama." He studied her with new interest. "You're different, Naomi. Is that good or bad, sir?" "I haven't decided yet." He smiled. A real smile that transformed his entire face from intimidating to almost handsome. No, not almost. Definitely handsome. "Good night, Naomi." "Good night, sir." She watched him walk away, something warm and dangerous blooming in her chest. That was the moment she first felt it. The flutter, the awareness, the completely inappropriate recognition that her employer wasn't just powerful or intimidating. He was a man, a complicated, troubled, surprisingly kind man who made her heart do things she absolutely could not afford to feel. No, she told herself firmly. Absolutely not. He's your employer. He's a dangerous man in a dangerous world. He's completely, utterly, impossibly off limits. But the heart, Naomi was learning, doesn't listen to logic. 6 months into her employment, everything shifted. The late-night conversation started almost by accident. Naomi would be cleaning Jinwoo's study during her evening shift. He'd be working on contracts, spreadsheets, documents written in Korean that she deliberately didn't translate even though she was slowly learning the language. At first, they'd exchange simple pleasantries. "Good evening, sir." "Good evening, Naomi." But gradually, the conversations grew. He'd ask about her day. She'd ask about his work. Carefully, never crossing the line into anything too specific. He'd make dry observations about his business associates. She'd share funny stories about the other staff members. One night, 3 months before the wedding she didn't know was coming, he set down his pen and asked, "Do you miss Atlanta?" "Sometimes. I miss my grandmother." Miss sweet tea and good barbecue. Misunderstanding every conversation happening around me. She smiled. But soul is growing on me. What do you like about it? The energy. The way old and new exist side by side. The food, though I still can't handle the really spicy stuff. The people mostly. Once you get past the initial reserve, there's real warmth here. You sound like you're planning to stay. Maybe. If I can save enough to bring my grandmother here. She's always wanted to travel. Naomi paused. What about you, sir? Have you always lived in Seoul? Born and raised. Educated partially in the States, Harvard Business School, but always came back. This city is in my blood. Do you love it? Or is it more complicated than that? He looked at her with surprise. That's perceptive. It's both. I love Seoul, but I also feel trapped by it. By family expectations. By the business. By 1,000 obligations I never chose but can't escape. That sounds exhausting. It is. He leaned back in his chair, and for a moment, he looked young. Vulnerable. Can I tell you something? Of course, sir. I wanted to be an architect. He pulled out a leather portfolio from his desk drawer. I spent my entire childhood drawing buildings, dreaming of creating structures that would outlast me. Something beautiful instead of this. He gestured vaguely at the contracts on his desk. The family business. Naomi moved closer, looking at the sketches he'd pulled out. They were beautiful, detailed drawings of towers and bridges, buildings that seemed to defy gravity, structures that were equal parts art and engineering. These are incredible, sir. Why didn't you pursue it? My father died when I was 23. The family business needed a leader. I was the oldest son. There was no one else. He traced the lines of one drawing, a tower that seemed to reach toward the clouds. Architecture became a hobby. The family business became my life. What is the family business exactly? She knew she was pushing boundaries, but something in his tone made her think he wanted to talk. He looked at her for a long moment. Nothing you want to know the details about. Because it's dangerous? Because knowledge is dangerous. The less you know, the safer you are. That's not really an answer, sir. It's the only answer I can give you. His voice was gentle but firm. But I appreciate that you ask direct questions. Most people are too afraid to ask me anything. Should I be afraid? Probably. Most people are. He smiled without humor. Does that bother you? Honestly, I don't know. My grandmother always said you can't judge a man by his reputation. You judge him by how he treats people when no one's watching. She met his eyes. You've been nothing but kind to me, sir. So either you're a really good actor, or there's more to you than the rumors suggest. What if I'm both? Then I guess that makes you human. She picked up her cleaning supplies. Complex. Contradictory. Just like the rest of us. He laughed. A real laugh that seemed to surprise both of them. You're wasted as a maid, Naomi. You should be in philosophy or psychology. Can't pay my grandmother's medical bills with philosophy, sir. True. But still, you have a gift for seeing people clearly. So do you, sir. You just hide it better. They fell into a comfortable silence, and Naomi realized with a start that she'd been in his study for over an hour. She'd stopped cleaning 20 minutes ago. They'd just been talking. Like normal people. Like friends. That scared her more than any of the dangers surrounding the Park family. Because somewhere along the way, Jinwoo Park had stopped being her intimidating employer and had started becoming something more dangerous. Someone she looked forward to seeing. Someone whose smile made her day better. Someone she thought about when she should have been thinking about anything else. She was developing feelings. Real feelings. For a man who was completely, utterly, impossibly off limits. The late-night conversations continued. Once a week, then twice, then almost every night Naomi worked. They talked about everything. Books. He loved American literature. She was discovering Korean authors. Music. He was surprisingly into jazz. She loved R&B and old soul. Childhood dreams that had died when reality demanded different paths. They never touched. Never crossed any physical lines. But emotional intimacy grew in a way that felt more dangerous than any physical contact. One night, Jinwoo showed her a scar on his shoulder, a bullet wound from a business disagreement 5 years ago. Does it hurt? She asked. Sometimes. When it rains. When I'm stressed. He rolled his shoulder. Mostly it just reminds me that I'm mortal. That one day, someone will be faster or smarter, and this life I've built will end. That's dark, sir. It's realistic. He looked at her. In my world, you don't die of old age. You die when you stop being useful or when you make a critical mistake. Then why stay in this world? Because leaving isn't an option. Because the people who depend on me, the legitimate businesses, the employees, The families who rely on our protection, they need me to stay. Because walking away would create a power vacuum that would get innocent people killed. So you're trapped. Completely. His smile was sad. The golden cage is still a cage, Naomi. I'm sorry, sir. Don't be. I made my choices. I live with them. He picked up his pen again. But I appreciate that you listen. That you don't judge. That you treat me like a person instead of a monster. You're not a monster, sir. You don't know what I've done. I know how you treat me. How you treat the staff. How you protected me from that drunk guest. How you work yourself to exhaustion to keep everything running. She moved toward the door. Maybe you've done terrible things. Maybe you are dangerous. But you're also kind. And that matters. She left before he could respond, her heart pounding. She was falling for him. Completely, irrevocably, disastrously falling for him. And there was nothing she could do to stop it. 8 months into her employment, Jinwoo's father made an announcement that shattered whatever fragile thing had been building between them. Naomi wasn't supposed to hear it. She was cleaning the adjacent room when the shouting started, Jinwoo's father's voice booming through the walls. You'll marry the song girl. The alliance is already arranged. The contracts are signed. I won't. Jinwoo's voice was steel. I don't love her. I won't marry someone I don't love. Love. His father laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Love is a luxury for people who have the privilege of choice. You don't. You're the head of this family. You marry strategically, or you don't marry at all. Then I'll marry no one. You need an heir. You need alliances. The Song family controls the southern territories. This marriage secures our power for the next generation. It's already decided. Find another way. There has to be another way. There is no other way. The sound of something slamming, a fist on a table. You will marry Yoon Seo Song in 6 months. The announcements go out tomorrow. This discussion is over. Silence. Then Jinwoo's voice, quiet and utterly defeated. Yes, father. Naomi pressed her hand to her mouth. Fighting tears, she had no right to cry. Of course he was getting married. Of course it was arranged. Of course she'd been foolish to think their late-night conversations meant anything beyond employer being kind to employee. She'd let herself believe in something impossible. Let herself dream that maybe, somehow, there could be something between them. But reality had just crashed down like a hammer. Jinwoo Park was getting married to someone appropriate. Someone from his world. Someone who could stand beside him without raising eyebrows or causing scandal. And Naomi was the help. The American maid who'd made the catastrophic mistake of falling in love with a man she could never have. She avoided him for 3 days after that conversation. Took on different shifts. Cleaned different areas. Made sure their paths never crossed. On the 4th day, Jinwoo found her in the garden. You've been avoiding me. It wasn't a question. I've been busy, sir. She kept her eyes on the roses she was trimming. Don't lie to me, Naomi. You've never been a good liar. He sat on the bench beside where she was working. You heard the conversation with my father. She froze. I know you were cleaning the adjacent room. I know you heard everything. His voice was soft. That's why you've been avoiding me. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I should have left when I realized. I'm the one who should apologize. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she'd learned meant he was stressed. I've been selfish, letting you become someone I depend on. Someone I look forward to seeing. It wasn't fair to you. Her heart cracked. You don't owe me an explanation, sir. Yes, I do. He turned to face her. Because somewhere along the way, these conversations stopped being just friendly workplace chat. And I should have been more careful. Should have maintained better boundaries. It's fine. Really. You're getting married. That's wonderful. I hope you'll be very happy. The words tasted like ashes. Don't. His voice was raw. Don't pretend you don't know I'm miserable about this. She finally looked at him. Saw the same trapped desperation in his eyes that she felt in her chest. What do you want me to say, sir? I don't know. Maybe that you'll miss our talks. Maybe that working here won't feel the same once I'm married. Maybe that. He stopped himself. That what? Nothing. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. The words escaped before she could stop them. He looked at her for a long moment. The air between them charged with everything they couldn't say. You should go back to work. Yes, sir. She gathered her gardening tools with shaking hands. Naomi. She stopped but didn't turn around. When I'm married, we can't keep having our evening conversations. You understand that, right? It wouldn't be appropriate. I understand, sir. I'm sorry. So am I, sir. She walked away before he could see her cry. That night, alone in her small apartment, Naomi made a decision. She couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't watch Jinwoo marry someone else while her heart slowly broke. couldn't keep torturing herself with stolen conversations and inappropriate feelings. She would resign, find another job, maybe even go back to Atlanta, get away from Jinwoo Park and the impossible situation she'd created for herself. In the morning, she submitted her resignation letter to Mrs. Kim. I've been offered a position in Busan, Naomi lied smoothly. Better pay, closer to family opportunities. I'll need to leave in 2 weeks. Mrs. Kim looked at her suspiciously. This doesn't have anything to do with Mr. Park's upcoming wedding, does it? Of course not, Mrs. Kim. It's purely professional. Because I've noticed how much time you spend cleaning his study. How often he requests you specifically for certain tasks. Naomi's stomach dropped. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Mrs. Kim's voice softened slightly. You're a good worker, Naomi. You're also a smart girl. Smart enough to know that some paths lead nowhere good. I'm going to accept your resignation without questions. And I'm going to hope you're making this decision for the right reasons. I am, Mrs. Kim. I promise. Good. Your last day will be 1 week before the wedding. I'll have your final payment and references ready. 1 week before the wedding. Naomi could survive 1 more week. Then she'd leave. Start over. Forget Jinwoo Park and his kind eyes and his late-night conversations and the way he made her feel like maybe she mattered. She could do this. She had to. But 3 days before her planned last shift, Jinwoo appeared at her apartment. She'd never given him her address, but of course he knew it. He knew everything about everyone in his employ. You're leaving. Again, not a question. Yes, sir. Because of me. She couldn't deny it. Because I can't stay. I understand. He stepped into her small apartment, looking painfully out of place among her second-hand furniture and cramped space. I don't want to, but I understand. Jinwoo, she caught herself. Sir, I'm sorry. That was inappropriate. Don't apologize. He moved closer. Do you want to know the truth? The real truth. I don't think. These past 2 years have been the happiest of my life. The words tumbled out like he'd been holding them back forever. Even knowing it was temporary. Even knowing it couldn't lead anywhere. You've been the only real thing in my world. The only person who sees me as Jinwoo instead of the Park family heir. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Please don't make this harder than it already is. I'm not trying to. I just need you to know. He cupped her face gently, his thumb wiping away her tears. When I'm standing at that altar next week, saying vows to someone I don't love, I'll be thinking of you. I'll be remembering every late-night conversation. Every smile. Every moment you made me feel like maybe I wasn't as lost as I thought. You have to stop talking. Her voice broke. Please. I can't. I love you. The confession hung in the air like a bomb. I know I have no right to say it. I know it changes nothing. I know I'm about to marry someone else and spend the rest of my life pretending I don't wish it was you. But I needed you to hear it. Just once. I love you, Naomi. Her world tilted. You can't say that. You're getting married in a week. I know. And I'll go through with it. I'll honor my commitments. I'll do what's expected of me. I'll marry Eunicio and pretend I'm happy and build the dynasty my father wants. He leaned his forehead against hers. But my heart will always belong to you. Even if you're in Busan. Even if I never see you again. You'll always be the one that mattered. I love you too. The confession broke free like a dam bursting. I've loved you for so long, I don't remember when it started. I love how you sketch buildings when you think no one's watching. I love how you take your coffee black, but always ask for cream so you can give it to the other staff members who prefer it. I love how you remember everyone's names and their families and their problems. I love you, and leaving is killing me, but staying would kill me faster. I know. He pulled her into his arms, and she let herself melt against him for just 1 moment. Let herself pretend this could be real. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't be brave enough to choose you over duty. It's not your fault. You're trapped. That's no excuse. I could have fought harder. Could have found another way. He pulled back to look at her. But I was afraid. Afraid of my father. Afraid of starting a war between families. Afraid of what choosing love over power would cost. I was a coward. You're not a coward. You're just. Don't make excuses for me. I'm choosing the easy path. The expected path. And you're the one paying the price. They stood there in her small apartment, holding each other, both crying, both knowing this was goodbye. When he finally left, Naomi collapsed on her floor and cried until she had nothing left. The next day, everything changed again. Mrs. Kim called her. There's been a complication. Mr. Park has requested that you work the wedding. He says it's important to have familiar, trusted staff handling the ceremony. No, absolutely not. I can't. Triple pay. plus a bonus that would cover 6 months of your grandmother's medical expenses. Naomi's breath caught. 6 months. That was 6 months of dialysis, medications, treatments. That was 6 months of her grandmother's life. Why? Her voice was barely a whisper. Why would he ask this of me? I don't know. I didn't ask. I'm just passing along the message. Mrs. Kim paused. It's your choice, Naomi. But that kind of money, it's life-changing. It was also torture. Watching the man she loved marry someone else. Serving champagne and smiling professionally while her heart bled out. But her grandmother's face appeared in her mind. Sweet, strong, stubborn Grandma Rose who'd raised her after her parents died. Who'd worked 2 jobs to keep Naomi in school. Who'd never complained about her own health problems because she didn't want to be a burden. Naomi could survive one more day. One more impossibly painful day. For her grandmother. I'll do it, she heard herself say. Good. Report at dawn on the wedding day. The line went dead. Naomi stared at her phone, wondering what she'd just agreed to. And wondering why Jean Wu would put them both through this fresh hell. The wedding day arrived with cruel, perfect sunshine. Naomi reported to the estate at 5 a.m., dressed in her staff uniform, her heart a dead weight in her chest. The transformation was already underway. Thousands of white roses, crystal decorations, a ceremony space that looked like something from a fairy tale. A fairy tale that belonged to someone else. She worked on autopilot, arranging place settings, directing other staff members, checking ice sculptures and champagne towers, keeping her hands busy so her mind wouldn't have time to break. The guests started arriving around 10 a.m. Korean elite, business associates, relatives from both families. Everyone dressed in designer everything, speaking in voices that carried the confidence of people who'd never had to worry about money. Naomi moved through the crowds invisibly, refilling glasses, clearing plates, being the perfect ghost. At 11:30, Mrs. Kim found her. Emergency. The groom's tie came undone, and his useless groomsman can't figure out how to fix it properly. You're good with that sort of thing. Go handle it. Naomi's heart stopped. Can't someone else? Everyone else is managing critical tasks. You're the only one available. 5 minutes. In and out. She walked toward the groom's preparation room like a woman walking to her execution. She knocked, heard his voice, come in, and felt something inside her shatter all over again. She entered. Jean Wu stood by the window, and when he saw her, every carefully constructed wall crumbled. Naomi, your tie needs fixing, sir. Right? The tie. She approached, her hands trembling. Through the window, she could see the 300 guests filling the garden below. Could see the altar where in 20 minutes, vows would be spoken that would end everything. Her fingers touched the silk of his tie, and the air changed. Became charged. Impossible to ignore. We shouldn't be doing this, she whispered. His hand covered hers on his collar. I know, but I can't marry her without telling you the truth. Don't. Please don't. I love you. And then the world exploded. The confession. The kiss. The desperate, impossible, beautiful moment where they finally admitted everything. I love you too. They held each other like drowning people, knowing this was the first and last time. Then the knock. 5 minutes, sir. Reality crashed back. Naomi finished his tie with shaking hands, whispered goodbye, left before she completely fell apart, and heard the conversation that would change everything. The voices from Unesio's dressing room. The poison plot. The murder plan. The frame job that would destroy her life and end Jean Wu's. Naomi stood in the hallway, her world shattering for the 3rd time in an hour. He loved her. He was dying. She was the scapegoat. And she had 10 minutes to decide what to do about it. The wedding music started. Naomi forced herself to move, to walk toward the ceremony space, her mind spinning through impossible calculations. If she told Jean Wu, would he believe her? Would he cancel the wedding? Would it start a war? If she stayed silent, would she watch him die over 6 months? Would she go to prison for his murder? Her grandmother's face filled her mind. Sweet Grandma rose in her hospital bed in Atlanta, depending on Naomi to send money for treatments. But Jean Wu's face countered it. Jean Wu saying, I love you, with his whole heart. Jean Wu who'd protected her, respected her, made her feel seen. The guests were all seated now. The bridesmaids lined up. The music swelled. Naomi took her position in the back of the ceremony space with the other staff members, her heart hammering. She could see Jean Wu at the altar, could see the resignation on his face. The defeat. He was going through with it. Was going to marry his killer. Was going to die because duty mattered more than survival. Unless she stopped it. The processional music changed. Eunicio appeared at the entrance in her wedding dress, stunning and deadly, smiling like a queen claiming her throne. She walked down the aisle with perfect grace. Every step brought her closer to Jinwoo. Every step sealed his fate. Naomi's hands clenched into fists. Her grandmother's voice, "Baby girl, regret is heavier than fear." Her mother's voice, "Asterisk, promise me you'll protect your grandmother. She's all you have left." Asterisk. Eunicio reached the altar, took Jinwoo's hands. The officiant began. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Jinwoo Park and Eunicio Song in holy matrimony. Marriage is a sacred bond, built on trust, love, and commitment. Trust, love, commitment, none of which existed in this arrangement. If anyone has reason why these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace." The words hung in the air like a loaded gun. This was it. Her only chance. Speak or stay silent. Save him or save herself. Choose love or choose safety. The silence stretched. 1 second. 2. 3. Naomi's lips parted. Her hands trembled. Jinwoo's eyes swept the crowd, and for one moment, his gaze found hers in the back of the room. She saw the question there. The desperate hope. The silent plea for someone to save him. And he saw her terror. Her conflict. Her love. His brow furrowed. "What's wrong?" She shook her head, tears streaming. Asterisk, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. Asterisk. The officiant cleared his throat. "Very well. Eunicio Song, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, till death do you part?" "I do." Eunicio's voice was crystal clear. "Till death do you part." 6 months. The officiant turned to Jinwoo. "And do you, Jinwoo Park, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, till death do you part?" Jinwoo opened his mouth, closed it. His eyes were still on Naomi. She was shaking now, her whole body trembling with the decision. "Sir," the officiant prompted, "do you take this woman to be your wife?" The entire room held its breath. Eunicio squeezed his hand, her smile confident. Naomi closed her eyes, made her choice, opened her mouth. Now listen carefully. If you want to know what Naomi decides, if you want to know if she saves Jinwoo or stays silent, if you want to know what happens when everything explodes, you need to do 3 things right now. 1. Smash that subscribe button because part 2 is going to be insane and you do not want to miss it. 2. Drop a comment below telling me, save him if you think she should speak up, or stay silent if you think she should protect her grandmother. I want to see where you stand. 3. Hit that like button to show me you're invested in this story. This is True Soul Stories, and what you just watched, that was Mercy. What comes next is war. Comment part 2 below if you can handle what's coming. Because Naomi just made a choice, and nothing will ever be the same.